So first question is going to be around mission. What do you think should be distinctive about a business school at a Catholic university? How would you expect a business school at a Catholic university to be different than non-Catholic business schools, whether they're private schools or public schools?
We have heard one word over and over again, and thankfully we're hearing it over and over again for the last 2 days. That word is vocation. And that, to me, gets at the core of what we're doing different. How do we help our students, graduate and undergraduate, begin to realize and to understand what it means to have a purpose in life that will be fulfilling, that will help them to become themselves, that goes beyond just making money or piling up more stuff. And when I think of that, I will never forget the image of Danny DeVito in Other People's Money, where his girlfriend asks him, well, Danny, what do you want to have accomplished when you die? And he responds, to have the biggest pile of toys of anybody. How do we move our students beyond that? Jesuit education is supposedly educating the entire person. So in answering this question, I think you're then saying, okay, what does it mean? What's the knowledge you need to have? How do you make the decisions as you go along? But then also the very, very hard part for us as educators, how do we help the students to develop the will to move in that direction? Secondly, students taking the priority here, students, undergraduate and graduate. Secondly, how do we focus research without at the same time violating academic freedom in any way? How do we help our faculty members to do research in the areas of values, of looking at social problems, of understanding the role of business in society, of understanding more deeply what business is all about? I think we need to address those issues, and for reasons that we've heard in different sessions here already today, that's a difficult battle to fight at times. But we have to, if we don't attempt to work at it and move forward, we will have, well, if we don't attempt those sorts of things, the remark that falls in my head at the current time comes from Flannery O'Connor. She came up from the South to a big dinner party in New York, and she was a Southern hillbilly basically at that point, but she'd begun to establish her writing, and she was totally fearful as she sat at the head table. Well, finally, one of the New York's finest women looked at her and said, trying to get her into the conversation, well, you know, Flannery, it's wonderful that you're a Catholic. After all, you have the great symbol of the Eucharist. And Flannery looks up and says, well, if the Eucharist is only symbol, the hell with it. How do we move beyond symbols and this sort of thing and what we're doing and make it real?
Well, and I thought about this too, and so Tom, I really appreciate everything you said, and I'll just try to take a little different tact as I was thinking about how our business school maybe is a little different, and how its Catholic context makes it, I think, much different, and why I appreciate being there so much. We're able to have, and really this is, I think, what you're saying too, Tom, such rich conversations with our students that wouldn't be possible in another context. You know, we're all AACSB schools, you know what that means. So we're teaching the skills, we're all teaching the similar concepts, come at them in little different ways, but we can have a conversation around those concepts that really wouldn't exist in another way. And I was thinking about the structures on our campus that help us with that. You probably do on your campus as well, have vice presidents for mission and ministry. Our colleagues in the public sector really wouldn't find, very unlikely to find that position. That is something that I think really enriches us. We involve those folks in the business school in lots of ways, working with our faculty and our students. We also think about Ignatian pedagogy intentionally as we work with our students, and so I think that's an important development for our faculty. It's a new concept for most of our faculty when they come to us, but it's something, our students, a lot of our students come from the high schools, from the Jesuit high schools, for example, and they're a little familiar with the idea, but it's, again, an educational experience that they wouldn't have in another context. We talk about making a difference, and that's really a mantra for us, is that your job, your vocation, wherever you are, is to make a difference in the world around you, and part of that involves care and concern for others. And so I mentioned to others here, I was so impressed with the publication, The Reflection, because that's what really came through to me, was the notion of care and concern for others. And we see that as part of our Jesuit tradition that we draw on, but it really is a universal concept, I think, for everyone in this room. And then, of course, the underlying all is the notion of social justice. And again, I think that is, that concept, that construct, really makes a rich environment on which to ground then what we teach in business.
Well, I don't want to try and repeat what Tom and Ellen have said, and since we all come from Jesuit schools, some of the things will be similar, but we all talk about making the world a better place, and that's something that we talk to our students about all the time. But let me tell you a story, and I think it may make this happen, because not all Catholic schools talk about mission. As part of my job with AACSB, and I've been involved with them for a long time, I've done about 40 accreditation visits and probably consulted for another 40 schools around the world. So I see a lot of schools, small, big, religious, public, private. And I was at a Catholic school that was run by a very prominent order. It will remain nameless. And you know the names of the schools that this order was involved with. And so when we were out visiting the school, and it was an accreditation visit, and so the first thing we talk about is mission. So I thought, well, let me throw them a softball. And I said, tell me about your mission and how it impacts your business school. And I was just with the business faculty. And quiet, didn't get anything. And then a faculty member in the back said, well, really, the mission of the college, and it was a college, it wasn't a university, it was a college, really doesn't impact the business program all that much. And I was fascinated to hear that, because we talk about this a lot at our place. And I said, really? And so we went on a little bit, and they went on to talk about the wonderful things they did in business, but how, now, I mean, this is a very prominent order. And so we did the visit, and at the end of the day, we went to meet with the president and the provost, both who were priests. And Dick Schick was on this visit, actually. And so he asked how it went, and I said, well, for accreditation, they're doing the things they need to do. I said, but I need to tell you that part of this is mission-based, and I asked this question of your faculty, and here was the response, and I told him the response. Well, the president jumps up, starts screaming at the provost, I told you that they don't care, and it's all your fault. And it's like, ugh. I said, okay. So now I got the provost. I said, just give me my check and let me go home. But it was fascinating to me, and I also found it interesting because I did look at the attendance list, and this school is not represented here, or anyone from that order, which I find fascinating. But so not everyone does it, but I think those of us that do, it's other than business. It's about making the world a better place, however you want to do it. Now, I need to tell you, the Catholics don't have the monopoly on this, because I've visited a number of other schools that are religious based that are not Catholic, and they do it pretty well themselves. And I will tell you that some of them may do it better than us. Different, but may do it better than us. But it's nice to know that there are others out there doing this. You know, I don't think we claim to have a monopoly, and we probably shouldn't. But it's more than our discipline. It's more than the class names. It's about making the world a better place. One other quick story. My son went to St. Joseph, and he graduated the year before I started there, thank God. And so in his senior year, and they do, you know, Project Appalachia, where you go to Appalachia and build homes for the homeless, and a lot of schools do that. And a lot of other things we do. And it was coming into his senior year, and he participated in none of those things, okay? And I said to my wife, I think Joseph is missing this. But, you know, and that's a shame. And then he came home at Thanksgiving, and he said, I'm going to Appalachia over semester break to build homes for the homeless. And I said, terrific. And so he got up and he left, and my wife said, don't get too thrilled, his girlfriend's going, okay? So said, okay, well, at least he's going, all right, he's going. And they came home on a Sunday, and Monday he calls and said he's coming home for dinner. Now, generally that means he needs money or he's bringing all his clothes home to get cleaned, all right? But he came home for dinner, and he sat at the table, and he said, I need to tell you that it was a life-changing experience. He said, I thought those things that we saw, you only see on television. I didn't know that people actually went to bed at night and they didn't have windows in their house, and they didn't have bathrooms and whatever. And they didn't finish building the house over the week, which wasn't surprising. And I knew that something happened because a week after graduation, he went back with 4 or 5 of his friends to finish what they were doing. And then the year after, he went to Mexico because one of his roommates was a Jesuit volunteer, and he went down to build a playground and to pour concrete. Now, you need to understand, he does none of this stuff at home, okay? But he does do it for the poor. And he got a bonus. He went to work for Vanguard, and he had a very good job. He was a business major, and he gave the money to the home in Mexico. So, I mean, something happened there. It was transformed. Met a young girl. They got married. They now have a grandchild. And so good things happened. But, and it did change his perspective on life. I mean, up to that point, he was 21 years old and having a very good time, okay? And it changed his life. Now, are there other people, other schools that do that? Yeah, there are. But that doesn't mean that, you know, that's not a good thing. Other schools should be doing what we're doing.
One of the things that I think we do well, though, Joe, and not to diminish the value at all of that, is that as part of our pedagogy, we do reflection about that.
Yeah.
So it's not just the experience. It's the thinking about the experience and internalizing and helping your son and all of our students think about what it means to have those experiences. And the question that I hear people asking is, so how were you changed by that? And he could talk about how he was changed by that. And I think that's something that's really important about the kind of education that we offer.
The next question is, for a Catholic business school, how important is it to be working with other parts of the campus? What would be ways that could happen, and what are some of the challenges there are when a business school tries to reach out to the rest of the campus? I'm going to start with you, Dean DiAngelo.
Well, first of all, I think it's something that we should be doing. But it's not as easy as one would think. Now, I have to be careful because I have some of my colleagues here from St. Joseph, and there are a number of Jesuit colleagues in here. But you know what? Sometimes, and we keep talking about the mission of a business school in a Catholic institution. And I think we need to have a program to teach some of the religious about the role of a business school in a Catholic institution, because some of ours don't understand. Some of them do. But we've reached out, we've extended our hand a number of times across the aisle. Again, there's only 2 schools at St. Joe's. It's only liberal arts and business. And it's gotten smacked a few times. Now, we do have some very interesting courses. We have a few unique programs at St. Joe's. We have a the largest food business program, a food marketing program in the country. We do something in pharmaceutical business. We do a lot of industry niche things. We are teaching a course in food and the poor with the philosophy department, which is a very, very interesting course and very popular, and I think that's terrific. But I haven't been able to make many other inroads, and that's frustrating. And sometimes I like to get all of the Jesuits in the room and just like have them hear us sometimes, because sometimes they don't think we speak the language that they would like us to speak. I had a student come in to see me a couple years ago who happened to be the editor of a newspaper, and he was a business student. And he said, I'm very upset, and I'm going to write a story about this. I said, what? He said, I was in my philosophy class today. It was taught by a Jesuit. And they went around and asked everybody what our majors were, and I told them I was in business and I was in marketing. And he said, oh, they teach you to lie, cheat, and steal over there. And the student was very upset. And he wanted to write an expose. And that's the last thing we need on the front page of the Hawk is an expose about this. But nonetheless, so that's sometimes a challenge for us. But we do need to do it. We had a new vice president of mission who came on. I guess this is his third year coming up. So he's been here 2 years. Came from another Jesuit institution, layperson, theologian. And wanted to go in and talk to some of the classes and find out about mission. So he went into one of our business classes, and he said, tell me about mission and what they talk about in the business school. And one of the students said, I don't think in Wolfington, that's where the mission office is located, I think in Wolfington you think we never talk about mission in the business programs. And this student started rattling all these things. And the new head of mission was very impressed, and he went to another class just to see if he heard it again, and he did. So he comes to a cabinet meeting, and he says to me in the cabinet meeting, Joe, we went into one of your classes, and the students were so effusive about mission. And I went to another class, and he said, they did it again. And I said, why do you sound so surprised? Why should that be so surprising to you? You should have expected that. And then he looked at me and he said, you're right, now I'm embarrassed. Because it just was amazing to me, the first class he went to find out if we talk about mission was see if they really do it in business. Well, we do. And it would be nice if we were able to do more of that in some of the other disciplines. And we do some, but not nearly as much as we should.
I don't think we do nearly as much as we should. I think we have a lot of opportunities, and I think we let our busyness and our silos kind of get in the way. We're a pretty complex organization. We have a medical school, law school, and the garden variety of other undergraduate programs, and a campus in Madrid, Spain. And so we get involved in our daily lives, and I think we're doing pretty well inside our walls, but I don't know that we do as well across campus as we should. We've had various initiatives on campus that are, and I'm talking now about things that would be collaborations that I would say around mission. We do have some initiatives that involve staff, where we have staff that come together and across campus and hear speakers and interact around mission issues. I think probably our students do it better themselves through the student organizations, the student volunteering, campus kitchen, and those kind of things that cut across all the student body than we really do sort of intentionally. As Joe was talking, I was thinking about opportunities we have. We have a great collaboration with our engineering school and our entrepreneurship center. But we could really be doing more around social justice issues having to do with things that happen in engineering, resources they have, and business. We can do more social entrepreneurship. We do a little bit of that. We work a little bit with our School of Social Work. But I think we could do a better job. There are a lot of opportunities. I had a colleague once who said that we're limited by the poverty of our imagination. And I think we could use some enrichment there. The opportunities are certainly there, and we just need to make a little more space and make a little more priority, I think, for us. But I see integrating opportunities on campus we just need to take advantage of with a medical school, a nursing school, all the health-related areas we have, public health, where the business school could be a leader in bringing some of our skills and talents and awareness to those programs as well.
My answer is basically the same as Joe and Ellen, that this is a intercamp or across-campus cooperation is something that should be a vital part of what we're doing, but we don't do that much. Yeah, you've got those obstacles for sure of your silos, of being extremely busy, of not having something that kind of makes it happen on a daily basis, even in terms of how a lunchroom is used and where your buildings are and so on. We at Marquette, there will be an occasional research project. We've done some things in the area of entrepreneurship. So you keep looking for those, but I still think finding that way of integrating your professional, for the students, of integrating the professional with the conceptual material, what's happening in English or history or theology or philosophy, is important. Maybe it begins by encouraging ways for just the faculty to get together and discuss issues. We do that occasionally at Marquette. But it's an issue we've got to work on, and it's very important that we do work on it.
How should business schools and Catholic universities be exposing students to Catholic social teaching? What are ways that can make that happen, and what are some of the impediments and challenges that materialize in trying to do that? Tom, you want to go first?
I developed some of my first initial interests in Catholic social teaching because I was required to take a course in it at John Carroll University back in 1957, a rather long time ago.
You were 11 then, right?
Oh yeah, I was a real, yeah, I had a fast track show. Over time, that particular requirement and others disappeared in order to bring more science and strict social science and so on into the curriculum, all of which are good things. And if I'd have been making the decision back then, I don't know what I probably would have done. But the point is that I had a unified exposure to Catholic social thought, and it worked. Should that be one of our requirements in theology? Should we return to being more prescriptive in what we require rather than saying take 3 courses, or you take 1 introductory course and then 2 electives where you whatever you want? I don't know. I think that we've got to encourage our faculty members and folks like you who are here today to begin using some Catholic social thought in their classes. I was teaching the Global Environment of Business course, corporate social responsibility and so on, when I was last teaching at Marquette. And I introduced some Catholic social thought into that and didn't get a great deal. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't say that I got any resistance to it. I think we've got to find ways of teaching it, as was brought out in one of the sessions today. The Catholic social documents, social thought documents, are normally written not to be read. If you try to waddle through them and the language and so on is used. So that means that we, the professorate, have got the obligation of figuring out how to make it work.
Well, as I was thinking about this, I thought the one example that I might share with you is something that's evolved for us in our curriculum over a number of years. You know, we have the required courses, you probably do too, in theology and philosophy. And what we learned is that there wasn't much integration of those concepts into their business curriculum. And when the students graduated, they didn't really know, they didn't think about them being a part of the curriculum. They were just requirements that they took, and they really weren't sure why. So we thought about that and worked on that. And so we introduced a course that we call it Biz 100, but it's not your typical introduction to business. It's a course that the purpose for which is to help the students understand what it means to study business in a Jesuit Catholic business school. And so that's really where we introduce them to those ideas, try to help them understand what's coming later. It's, they don't just get it by osmosis. And we now have introduced the bookend, which is Biz 400. And that's where we will remind the students what it has meant to study business at a Jesuit Catholic university. And so it's our, it took us a while to get to that point, and we used a lot of exit surveys, and we were just seeing that the students just didn't understand the curriculum, didn't understand how it held together, and really didn't understand why it might be different to study business at St. Louis University or other schools like ours. And so we decided we'll be more intentional about it, and we'll be a little more prescriptive, and we'll try to help them understand what they're getting into and then what they've experienced as they leave. Now that's about our undergraduates. We don't address the issues as directly with our graduate students. We have some plans to do a little more there, learning from the undergraduate experience actually. But I think that's something that we can all do, and for us it was just being more thoughtful and more intentional and really posing the question, what does it mean to study business here?
I'm going to approach this a little bit differently, and this is the way the question was written by Joe when he sent it to us a week or so ago. It says, do you think that, because the way you said it was a little bit different, do you think that Catholic business schools are obligated to expose students to Catholic social teaching? And my first response to that is no. Now, before you start throwing things at me, but here's why I say that. We tend to look at business programs as the courses that we teach. And so at St. Joe's, it's only 16 courses in business. We have 10 core courses and 6 in a major. The university restricts our number of courses in a major to 6. We only have 16 classes. And when we start going down this path of, are we obliged to teach Catholic social teaching, or should we be obligated? And last year, or 2 years ago, we had a question put up by the Faculty Senate. Should we be teaching diversity? Should we be teaching about global cultural issues? The answer to all those questions is, yes, we should. But why does it all have to be shoehorned into the 16 business courses? I don't look at our program in business as being only those courses in business that we teach. When I go to an open house and we're talking to parents, we'll get the question, how is your business program different than Villanova's and LaSalle's? We have lots of schools in Philadelphia. There are 12 or 13 Catholic colleges, and altogether there are 88 colleges within 25 miles of Philadelphia. Okay, so with lots of competition. It's the largest concentration of colleges and universities in the country. Everybody thinks it's Boston. Boston only has 75. They're much smaller. Okay? And I tell them, well, if you look at our accounting classes, we teach the same courses that Villanova and LaSalle teach. And, it's the courses students are required to take to sit for the CPA exam. And ours are a little bit different because our teachers are better. But when you look at our program, it's not just those courses. It's all the courses that they take in the liberal arts as well. And it's the other things that we do. And so if we were carrying out our mission as being a Catholic college and being a business program in a Catholic college, we would be teaching Catholic social teaching topics somewhere. We should be. Whether they should all be in business or whether it should be in business, I don't know. How much do you expect a business faculty member to know? We expect them to know all the new things that are going on in accounting or marketing or management, plus creating new knowledge in their disciplines. They're supposed to be doing research. Now we want them to teach sustainability. Ellen and I were just in a conference call yesterday debating the new topical areas that we should be putting in the ACSB standards. Now sustainability is in there, and we keep adding things. How much can a business faculty member master? And now we want them to be masters of Catholic social teaching. I think that's a stretch. I would like them to talk about it. It really would be nice if someone in the other side of the house, when they were teaching philosophy or theology or some of the other topics, would come to us and say, why don't you give us some business examples that we can use in our classes? And maybe we can tackle it that way. So I don't care where it's taught. I think it should be taught, but I don't know that it necessarily has to be taught in business class.
How do you think the portfolio of scholarship for a business school at a Catholic university should differ from that elsewhere? How much does that mission-related scholarship have to be supported? And what are some of the challenges you've seen trying to do that? So I'm going to go to Ellen first.
And you're all faculty members, so you know why this is the hard question. I think the key word, though, is portfolio of scholarship. And we've been spending a lot of time thinking about the new CSB requirements, so it's on my mind. The notion of mission driving what we do is, I think, key for all of us. And so we would say that intellectual contributions should be reflective of your mission. And so that would involve scholarship around pedagogy, around teaching and learning, scholarship in the disciplines, and other kinds of scholarship that's related to your mission. The difficulty that I find in my place with young faculty, and we've had some conversations about this really all morning, is the safe thing to do for a young faculty member who's trying to establish him or herself as a scholar is to stay in the very narrow discipline. So even interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary work may be a little bit risky for a young faculty member. So I think it's up to us in our institutions, our chairs, we have departmental chairs who are responsible for faculty development, the dean, our provost and vice presidents, our president, our institutional promotion and tenure committees to understand the role of mission and scholarship. And I'm not sure how far along you are with your institutions. It's a conversation we need to keep having. Conferences like this, and some of you know about the one that'll happen in July at Loyola Marymount, the colleagues in Jesuit Business Education. When you begin to have then also some products that are peer-reviewed papers, peer-reviewed journals, those again kind of get to the currency that our faculty are looking for. And so if we can encourage them to take a little bit of a risk, and in our place, the dean's office provides some resources for faculty to attend that and to venture off into those endeavors, and to try to help and encourage, and then to show how those endeavors are rewarded in the annual evaluations and in the promotion and tenure process. I think we can begin to make some movement, but it's something that we really need to do, and I think that's a place where we really need to demonstrate some leadership. And just as if I could, just to hand this off to Joe, Joe had a terrific example. Joe, if you don't mind if I...
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this before the session started, and some of it had to do with our accreditation visit. And I said, you know, we do some research in ethics. Why don't we put it together a little monograph and show the accreditation team how we're doing work in ethics? We talk about it a lot in our mission statement of what we do. Well, the monograph was huge. And when we went back and looked at, and we were also part of an experiment with ACSB looking at the impact of research. So we were supposed to talk about the type of research we do and what impact it had on business. And so we were looking at the type of research faculty members did and how it impacted the statements that we had, or how it was related to the statements we had in our mission statement. And it came out that 40% of the research that was being done by the faculty members was related to ethics or mission. And it was much higher than I had ever dreamed. I never bothered to calculate it. And the way we did that was 7 or 8 years ago, we received a donation to start an ethics center. An alum called, we were in the middle of a fundraising campaign, an alum called, he was a Wall Street person, and he said, all right, they're calling me. And his parents were big donors to the university. And they said, they know I'm going to give, So if you're interested in something different for the business school, take a train to Newark. And I'll be outside in a tan raincoat leaning next to a white Lexus. This is a God's honest true story. And a junior faculty member served with this person on a board for a retreat house. So I called a junior faculty member and said, is this legit? Because I'm going to Newark and coming out of a train station looking for somebody in a tan raincoat, and this could be a big surprise. So we did that, and he took me to Columbia, and they have an ethics center there, and it was endowed by the company that he worked for. And he made me listen to a presentation for an hour and 15 minutes from the dean. And then we went out for lunch, and he said, are you interested in an ethics center? And I said, yes. And he said, okay, we're not going to do it that way. And I said, okay, why are we not doing it that way? He said, because they ponder the ethical questions, but they never talk about what's right and wrong. And if you're willing to talk to your students about what's right and what's wrong, then I'm willing to fund it. And he said, send me a proposal. And I sent him a proposal, and he sent it back, and he said, you didn't ask for enough money. And so I never had that happen before. So we asked for more money, and he said, okay. But part of that is giving fellowships, stipends to faculty members to do research or to change their courses, to infuse their courses with ethics and pedagogy. And we give out $4,000 grants in the summer. And now even the skeptics in the faculty, okay, some of our finance faculty say, I don't know if I want to get into this ethics. They have to go through a 4-week program. It's going on right now. That's why John McCall's not here. He's teaching the program for us. John runs them through 4 weeks in the summer. And we've had 60 of the 84 faculty members now in the business school go through this program. And they've either changed their courses or they've written and published in an area of ethics. So it has changed the way we do things dramatically. Now we had to put up some funding for it. But the easier answer to this question, this is a simple, should the mission reflect the portfolio of scholarship in Catholic Business School? The answer to that is yes. When I go out to do an ACSB visit and I'm in a Catholic school, the first question for any ACSB visit is, how does the mission reflect the research? Or how does the research reflect the mission? And so I say, have you done any research on your Catholic pedagogy or your Catholic mission or Catholic social thought? And they look at me like I'm crazy. I said, but if it's not in your mission statement, it should be in your mission statement. So the short answer to that is, yes, it should be there, because that's who we are. It's part of our essence. Now, should it be for everyone? No. But it should be there. You know, being a business school dean or being a dean of any school is like being the manager of a baseball team. I used to be the baseball coach at St. Joe's years ago. And when I give the new dean seminar for business school deans at ACSB, I tell them, you build a faculty like you build a baseball team. You don't have 25 researchers. We would all like to have that. But you need some people who are excellent in the classroom with undergraduates. You need some people who are excellent in the classroom with graduate students, some with execs, some who are great externally with the corporate community, some who are great writing grants, some who are great writing research. Well, it's the same way here. And it's our job, if we don't have one, or a group of faculty who do work related to mission, it's our job to try and find them and then support that. And so you would send them to programs like this, or like CJBE or other programs, to familiarize them and then encourage that.
A good friend of mine is Andre Dobeck out at Santa Clara, and I know that many of you know him. Andre established a deep, deep credibility in the world of organization behavior and management and so on over the years. About his tenure, he was dean at Santa Clara, and when he moved out of that, he began to use that freedom that he had as a full professor with tenure, with the credibility, to do a lot of work on spirituality and management. In large measure because of his work, the interest group, subgroup of the Academy of Management on management, spirituality, and religion was started by Andre. He's currently using that freedom and the credibility he has to do research into the spiritual base of the executive, and 3 or 4 of us sitting in this room here are working with him on that. Are we encouraging our senior professors to do that sort of work where they have the freedom to do it? Because the truth, as Ellen laid out, of the junior professor, what can he or she do, having to get not only tenure at the institution but credibility in the profession, is always going to be there. I think that we simply need to look at issues, at possibilities like that, and keep moving forward. What's your institution doing to support it? And I think this is something that deans have to consider. Steve Porth here has put together the journal now coming out of colleagues in Jesuit business education. I'm sure that Joe is supporting him somehow in doing that, but at least in giving him time to do that work.
This morning we talked a bit about hiring for mission. So I wanted to get your insights on hiring for mission. How have you approached that? What are the ways that one might do that? What are some of the challenges that you've faced? So Tom?
In my experience in Marquette, whenever I sent a proposal on to my boss, the then Vice President for Academic Affairs, to hire somebody, I had to write a statement on what that person would or would not contribute to the Catholic mission of the university. It had some impact. I'm not sure how much impact as it went up and down the chain that it did have. But I think that's a very good step, and that you have to think first of all, because what is that Catholic mission? What do you need to support it, and so on. And it didn't always by any means include being Catholic. Certainly a Hindu who would contribute a great deal to the university because of his or her application of the Hindu religion to management would have been quite acceptable. I did find one that wasn't acceptable once. It was a candidate from economics who was coming out of the University of Massachusetts program at Amherst, which at the time was very Marxist in orientation. And so I wrote across the paper, I said, this person's not going to contribute directly to our being Catholic, but on the other hand, she may keep us honest. And and I got a call back and said, "Do you really want that to go forward?" I said, "Well, I sent it forward, didn't I?" And it was approved, and she turned us down. So I don't know whether she would have helped. You've also, though, when you're doing the no, that was early on, as a matter of fact.
They kept you anyway.
Yeah. The other hand, it was the following year, the econ faculty, the chair comes down, a very, very good man, and although a person that I argued with several times, but that didn't make any difference. I was very upset because he said, "Tom, we've got to turn this person down because of the quality of his work." Well, this person was a Jesuit. And I called my vice president and I said, "Ed, this is where the department comes down on it. We're an academic institution as well as a Catholic institution, but first an academic institution. What's going to be the reaction to turning it down?" He says, "If that's what you think," he says, "it breaks my heart as I know it breaks yours, but be credible on that."
We talk a lot about hiring for mission in all the positions that we have at the university. And I think in business schools, we know that we're challenged because of a faculty shortage for many of us. And so that really, I think, really makes the scrutiny more interesting. The interviews that I have with potential faculty, and I think hiring and tenuring are the two biggest decisions that we have to make in terms of the impact on our schools. So when I'm interviewing prospective faculty members, I almost exclusively talk with them about mission in the sense of their fit. I want to be sure that they understand what we're all about as an institution and that they can articulate it. And that's often where we stop. Because when somebody says, I don't exactly know what a Jesuit is, but I read on your website that you do these things, and that'll be okay with me. That's kind of not the depth of understanding or commitment that, that probably any of us.
When it really went out on a limb.
Yeah, it's like, okay. And so that's really, there will be a few questions that they have for me, but that's really, I think, my job in the interviewing process is to be sure that this is the person who's going to move the school forward in all kinds of ways. We have an educational and a research mission as well. But in terms of fit with our culture and with our expectations. Now, so this is a time for confession. It's not about religion, of course, because I'm a Lutheran, and I've been in this Jesuit school and the Dominican schools all these years. But I think it's more about the shared values. And some of you know the videos that the Jesuits developed around shared values and shared mission. And so not only do we need to be sure that we see the opportunity to hire someone who shares that value system and some understanding of what we're about as an educational enterprise, but who's willing to develop some depth of understanding and commitment to those values as they go on as a faculty member at our school anyway.
This is a tough one for a dean, and it's a little bit different today, Tom. I think we're not allowed to ask whether they're Catholic, and if especially the dean, because you can have a government issue for discrimination. So I don't ask. But when I do the interviews, I really don't have a conversation at all about their disciplinary area. That's up to the chair of the department and all the faculty members, and they're with that faculty member all day. If they can't figure out whether they're good in accounting or finance or management, then I'm not going to be able to figure that out. My job is to figure out whether there is the right fit, not only with the kind of faculty member they are and the kind of school that we are, and we use the teacher-scholar model. You have to be a good teacher as well as a scholar, and I'm sure it's the same in all of your places. But then it's the conversation about mission, and I do have the conversation about mission, and I tell them we're a Jesuit institution. Now, everyone before they come to campus gets a packet with 3 or 4 sets of materials about the mission of the university. There is a little pamphlet in there about the Jesuits and their philosophy and education, and that is all sent to everyone. But I do ask them to understand, try to understand, and respect the mission of the university, and in any way that they feel comfortable, find a way that they can participate and fit. Now, that doesn't mean they have to go to church, but it does mean that when we are involved in some social justice programs, that they can participate in those. I mean, hell, they could sit in the dunk tank when the kids are raising the money to go to Project Appalachia. I mean, somebody has to do it, and it'll be somebody other than me, and that will be good. But they need to find a way to fit in with the mission of the university. And this question of whether they should be Catholic or not, I mean, we've had this conversation on our campus. Our president threw it out there a few years ago. He's no longer our president anymore, but that has nothing to do with the question he asked. But he was talking, this was a conversation at Notre Dame, that 50% or more of the faculty members should be Catholic. And he threw that out for discussion. And first of all, the first response from the deans was, I don't know how we can do this because I'm not supposed to ask anyone. But I need to tell you that I do have a number of faculty members who are Catholic. And they don't have a clue about the mission of the university, okay? They don't have a clue about what it means to be a Catholic. And I have some who are not Catholic who are more familiar with the Jesuit mission and more familiar with the Catholic mission than the Catholics are. We had a strategic planning session several years ago when we were doing our plan, and part of it related to mission, and so we had all the obligatory breakout groups. And so I was sitting at a table with 7 other people, and 6 of them were not Catholic. And I didn't know that. They had been at the university a long time, and, we don't discuss what your religion is. And so I knew 2 of them were. The other 4, it surprised me. And so we were talking about mission. And they said, I know what it is to be a Jesuit institution. I don't know what it is to be a Catholic institution. Because we don't talk about that on campus. We talk about Jesuits, but we don't talk about Catholic. And it's a very sensitive issue on our campus. I don't know what it is on yours, because when you start talking about it, people think, oh, God, if it comes from the dean or it comes from the president, it's like they're forcing it on us. And so it's a hard conversation to have at our place, and it shouldn't be. But it's something that we need to deal with, because hiring for fit and hiring for mission is important. I mean, I'll tell you, I was a faculty member at St. Joe's back in the 70s, and I know, and you're saying, God, he doesn't look that old. And I was, don't laugh that hard. Yeah, what's the matter with you? And I was an alum. And back in the 70s, when I was a junior faculty member, we never talked about mission. We never did. And we never did when in the classroom, at least not overtly, because we have plenty of Jesuits running around. They were all over the place. We even had them in the business school. And, well, how many now, but, well, we have Father Ashford and Father Byron. He teaches a course for us. And if I can, negotiate with him, but no. But we had plenty of them, so we never really had to talk about it. But today, we talk about it all the time. But I will tell you that when I came back, I left St. Joe's in 1980, and I was away for 20 years. I came back in 2000. And, I mean, we were talking about mission all the time, and it just kind of hit me pleasantly. And one day I was at a talk with one of the Jesuits, and we're talking about finding God in all things. And when he said that, it hit me. When one of my theology classes, when I was an undergrad, and we had a priest who was a rebel. He wore a gray suit. He was a rebel back then, Everybody else had to wear black. And his name was Father Gonzalez. And our theology final exam was an oral exam, and he would ask us questions about things that were going on in the world at the time. And he showed me a picture of the Vietnam War. It was going on. And he said, "Do you see God in that picture?" And I thought he was crazy. And, and I gave him the obligatory answer that I thought would be the right answer. And it didn't hit me until I came back to St. Joe's in 2000, when I was sitting there having that talk, when they were talking about seeing God in all things, that then I understood what in God's name he meant about seeing God in everything that happens in the world. So, some of us are a little slower than others, okay? But we need to have faculty members who understand what we stand for. Now, whether they're Catholic or not Catholic, I'll leave that up to you to answer, okay? Because as a dean, I'm not supposed to answer that question, because I can go to jail. But I will say that some of my best faculty members who are familiar with mission are not Catholic.